When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
What the city is talking about.
The news that impacts you.
Welcome to the Montreal Now Podcast.
So I want to do something a little different today, and I know I broached this subject last week when we were still in the midst of the Winter Olympic Games in Canada. Remember at the beginning, people were like, hey, what's wrong? We're not doing really well. We haven't won any medals. Fast forward, of course, by the end of it, we had won a gold medal in curling. We, of course, have a silver in hockey, both men's and women's, but still underperformed for what many thought would be an Olympics we would do better, right? 21 medals altogether, many of them in speed skating, which is great. But then what happened was, and I asked the question at the time, because when people complained about, hey, how come Canada's not doing better? And my answer was, because we don't fund our athletes the way we should be. And many of you agreed, by the way, when I said, should we be doing a better job of this, right? I said, consider if we just asked everyone in Canada who pays taxes, that's about, 60 to 70% of us, for $10 to fund our Olympic athletes, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. But some of you said, no, I don't think I want to, and that's always kind of the go-to, right? The standard answer. I don't want my tax dollars going to anything else. Fix the roads. As if somehow they go with each other. They go together. They don't. So then I'm reading this thing, and this is why I bring it up today, because there is a column that was in La Presse written by an Olympian, a Quebecer. Laurent Dubreuil is an Olympic speed skater who won a bronze, by the way, a medal winner in the 500-meter long track skating event. And basically, here is an Olympian, right, representing our country, and penned a piece that basically says the same thing I'm saying, which is, hey, you want results, we need to do a better job of providing for our amateur athletes. Laurent Dubreuil is on the line. Laurent, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Aaron.
First of all, where are you today? You're in Europe somewhere?
Yeah, I'm in the Netherlands training for the World Championship, which is our last event of the season.
Okay, so I will ask you, based on what you wrote, and I think you make some excellent points. You also compare what, Canadian athletes get versus what they might get in other countries. Why did you think this was important to actually go ahead and write this? What brought this up?
I think it was a perfect timing. I think it's something a lot of people have been trying to say the last 10 years or so, but our results were still really good. Our highest medal total was in Pyeongchang 8 years ago, but we could still see the cracks in the building, but just it didn't show in the results yet. But I think having just won a medal gives me some credibility. I have a window to make some good, and I'm just trying to help out the next generation of athletes.
It's funny you say that, because I think most people would consider, the athletes in the games in their 20s. You actually point out in your piece, a lot of our medal winners are people in their 30s. So dealing with that, the next Winter Games are 4 years away. Many of these people perhaps won't be there or choose to not compete. Why do you think where are we failing with young people getting involved?
I think the funding has just slightly been going down year after year, and the cost of everything is going up, as many people know. And the amount of dollar we get, we can't stretch it as much for the sports federation. And I think it was easier. We had more support. I certainly had more support 10, 15 years ago than now. Even though I'm a Olympic medalist, I had more support in a way when I was 18 and coming up on the team in 2010, 2011.
And why do you think that is? I mean, if you try to rationalize why that happened, what's the answer?
I don't know. I think we just don't fund sport enough in general. I think we like to say that we're proud of the athletes, and I think people at home are proud of the athletes. But as a country, I think if we're really proud, we need to act appropriately and just show it in a meaningful way and not just words.
The other thing we need to do, of course, is compare. Canada is a country of roughly 40 million. I think by now most people, even if you're not a big Olympic fan, realize the country that ended up winning the most medals at this Games is Norway. That's a country of less than 6 million people. So clearly they're doing something right and we're doing something wrong. Is it only about money here, Laurent, as far as you're concerned? What else should be happening?
I think it's a culture thing a lot. I think for me, this is why I think Olympics are important. I think it's a good way to unify a country, a good way to motivate kids into sports, whatever sport that may be. Each of us at the Olympics, we've had to do interviews, and a question that often comes up is like, what did you, or when did you want to become an Olympian? When did you start dreaming about going to the Olympics? And for a lot of us, it's an Olympic athlete winning a medal 20, 30 years ago, depending on our age. And my goal in trying to make people get more funding in sport is not necessarily to get more Olympic medals, is to keep giving kids those models, those role models that will drive them to sign up for a sport. Yeah. I think it's crucial. I think the people are less and less active in society in many countries, especially that's very true for Canada, and I think it's very important to try to get kids moving again.
I will point out, by the way, for people, just as a point of information, we have a program, had a program in Canada, On the Podium, which started just before the Winter Games, right in Vancouver in 2010. That whole idea was to make things easier, to fund sports better, to do better and find better coaching. It worked because we won a lot of medals in Vancouver. Has that fallen off? What happened to that program?
On the Podium basically gives money to sports depending on how many medals they expect them to win. So some sports get a lot of money, some sports get absolutely zero. So for us in skating, we win a lot of medals, as you said. 10 or like 5 in long track, 5 in short track. So 10 of our 21 medals were from the Speed Skating Federation. So we're one of the richest federation, but I still have to pay for my World Championship right now. I'm not funded for it. I have to pay for my flights, hotels, food, everything. I'm don't even have a coach with me right now to train for the World Championship, which is crazy because we're actually one of the rich sports. If you go to alpine skiing, cross-country skiing, sports like this, World Cup season can set you back 30, 40, 50 grand.
Wait, I did not understand that. You're now going to compete in the World Championship. You have to pay your own freight to get there?
Yes, absolutely. And that's so does Valérie Malte, who was our flag bearer and won 3 medals at the Olympics. And so basically I stayed in Europe to avoid paying for a flight, but she went back home after the games and she had to buy a flight, book her hotel, everything. That's basically once the Olympics are over, it's like you're on your own. And thanks for the medals, but I don't know. We don't care about you anymore. It seems like.
Wow. By the way, I will point out, and I brought this up when I raised this last week. We also hear, even when you do win a gold medal in Canada, I thought the number was 20. Is it $25,000 you get for a gold medal?
20 or 25.
Okay.
I know it's 10 for bronze, a taxable 10 grand. So I don't think there's a lot in the end. Yes, it's 10.
No,
this one is taxable, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I hope this gets a few people to realize, you know what, we need to do a better job. That's ridiculous. A, that it's taxable, and B, that you now have to pay. If you want to compete at this level internationally, you have to pay for your own flight. You said you don't even have a coach with you. When I brought this up last week, someone else said, you know what, one of the things we need to do too is retain our coaches. Too many of them who were talented, good coaches, end up being recruited by other countries and do well there. That's another problem.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at like a coach's goal, like I know the coach it's driven by passion and everything, but that's his or her job. And if a country is going to pay twice as much, of course he or she may go there. So it's just as athletes, we cannot do that. We represent our country, and I'm totally fine with it. I'm proud to represent Canada, but at some point I would appreciate if it's a two-way relationship where we're funded sufficiently to compete and try to win medals.
Just one last question because I got to go. I mean, based on what you just said, and I appreciate you're going to compete in the World Championships, are you reaching the point where you're saying, you know what, enough is enough, and it's be time pretty soon to call it a day if we don't get more support?
Not for me personally. I think it's just hard for athletes to do that, even though we should in a way, because at some point enough is enough. But it's our passion, it's our lifelong dream, and I think people driven by passion will always find a way to keep going, and that's our strength as athletes. But it's probably a weakness in negotiations, unfortunately. Yeah. But it is what it is. We're really passionate about what we do, and when I stop, it's not because I'm not going to love it anymore. It's just because my body won't be able to do it.
Hey, listen, first of all, congratulations. We are all proud of you for winning a medal at the Olympics. And also, I think it's important to note, I would say proud for you pointing out that we could and should be doing better. And I hope that message gets through to Canadians, to our government, and whoever else is responsible for funding these programs. So, Laurent, congrats. Thank you for coming on, and I wish you good luck at the Worlds.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
You
it.
bet.
When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Bringing you the breaking news and the people making it. Montreal Now with Aaron Rand. CJAD 800.
Well, I hate to bring it up, but I got to bring it up. It's tax time. Officially, we're underway. The 2025 tax filing season kicked off yesterday. Going to have yourself, about 9 weeks to get everything done. April 30th, your deadline, at least for most taxpayers. So we thought, because there are changes every year, I'm not sure what they are this year. Harvey Bienenstock, our resident CPA, will tell you everything you need to know. Harvey, thank you for coming back. So let's start with, first of all, I'd like to kind of work back to front. Are there any major changes this year?
Well, very few. In fact, the biggest change was that they reduced the tax rate on the first tax bracket of income up to $57,000, went from 15% to 14%. So the first tranche of income that you pay tax on is 1% less. But since the change came in halfway through the year, you're only going to get 0.5% benefit for 2025 and not the full 1%.
Okay, so that's one sort of step right off the top. I mean, that's a good thing, I guess, right? Not a bad
thing. That's a good thing because, they give people money. And but other than that, there aren't very many changes. They give money under Canada disability benefits. They raise the old age pensions. They raise the GST credits. Basically, there's a lot of non-tax benefits that you get by filing a tax return.
All right. With respect, because people will always ask after we get talking, seniors, for example, want to know what's in here. Is there more in here this year for seniors?
Well, what they get is indexation. So what their pension goes up by inflation, their guaranteed income supplement goes up, the GST credits go up, the personal exemptions go up, the basic and the old age exemption. So they end up doing pretty well. And, you can get the supplement up to like $27,000 of income. So it's basically they do very well because let's face it, they vote. The other thing I point out is that we're now in RRSP season, and everybody gets seduced by the fact that if you put money in, you're going to save taxes. I would just give them a caveat that if you're in your 60s, the chances are that the money you're putting in to save the taxes and you have to start taking out 6 years later, you'll end up paying more tax on the withdrawal than you did saving going in. Because there's a clawback. So that if you figure you're going to have like a $1.5 million RSP, you're forced to take out 5.5%. So that's like $80,000 plus your old age pension plus your Quebec pension. You could well be over 93, in which case you lose you pay the tax plus you lose your old age pension. So I would recommend that if you have a spouse, you put money into a spousal plan. And after 3 years, your spouse can take the money out and it's taxed to her and not to you. So that's the first thing on an RSP. The other thing is that the best vehicle by far is this tax-free savings account, where you put money in and all the money you make in that account is tax-free. So whether you make interest, dividends, capital gains, you can pull it out tax-free, and you can pull it out and put it back in as you need it. And the maximum contribution, the cumulative contribution for 2026 is $109,000. So if you have money lying around, the best thing is to set up a TFSA and then just, invest on that basis. And the other benefit is this first home savings account that the government put in about a year ago, where you can put away $8,000 a year to a maximum of $40,000, which is like a TFSA, tax-free on the income and on the withdrawal, but you got to buy a home within 15 years. So that's basically it. And the other caveat I would say that they get you on other forms. Like on trust, you have to file a Schedule 15, naming the beneficiary, failing which you get penalized. And you also have this cash grab form on the feds called the T1135, where you have to declare your foreign assets. And by foreign assets, they include American stocks in your Canadian brokerage account. So if you have a stock brokerage account and you buy American stocks like Microsoft or Google, those qualify as foreign assets, even though they are held in Canada with a Canadian broker. And if you don't declare them, there's a penalty of 10% of the value of your account. So you've got to be careful that you file that form if your cost is over $100,000, failing which you're going to be penalized. And the upshot is Quebec has now instituted for this year the same form, called it the T1079.8, which again mirrors the federal form. So if you somehow think that you've got American stocks in your Canadian account and you're exempt, be very careful.
Well, wait, if that's the case, first of all, clarify, you said $100,000 or over, that's where it kicks in?
No, if your cost is over 100.
If your cost is over 100,
yeah,
okay.
So if you put in $100,000 a few years ago and you never added to it and it's worth a lot more money now, then you really are exempt.
Then the other issue would be if you're getting a statement from your brokerage, it's going to show that you hold those stocks, so it's there not for you to forget, right? They're there already based on what you already hold.
Yeah, but the upshot is that the Fed revenue gets the same statement. So whatever you get from your broker, the Feds have got the T5s, right, the T3s, the T508s. They know everything already. Why you have to duplicate this and send them another form and worry about it is just beyond me. I think it's just a cash grab in case you forget.
Okay, so you're getting whacked from Quebec and from the Feds this
year.
Yeah,
that's right. Different. So now you're looking at it. If you don't penalize, that's 20% of the value of your investment each year.
What else do we need to be aware of? Anything else?
As far as I know, no, there's just, those are the high points. Again, tax-wise, there are, all minor tweaking, like if you expend money to adapt a home for seniors,
right,
if you support seniors, you get all kinds of different credits, whether they're applicable or not. I would recommend that if anyone does their own tax return, they should go and either buy their TurboTax program or use the UFile program. It only costs like about $35, and when you fill in the information, it prompts you. What all of these credits, did you forget about this? Did you add this? Did you consider this?
Okay.
Did you file for the solidarity credit? All these things that come up.
Okay. Is there a home rental credit back in the program this year?
No.
Do you know?
No.
Nothing.
There used to be, but many years ago, like around 15 years ago, not anymore. If you adapt for seniors, there's a credit. Like if you have a ramp or you adapt a bathroom to adapt for seniors, you will get credit for the expenditures.
Okay.
And you get that on Quebec anyway, on a living credit for seniors.
Okay.
Assisted living for seniors. So they give you credits, but these are boutique credits. They don't apply to everybody.
Okay. Someone just texted saying, Aaron, could you have him explain the $2,500 death benefit? Whose tax return does it go to or go on?
It goes on the person who paid the funeral expenses, which is usually the beneficiary. Okay. Usually it goes on the estate of the deceased, but since it's received after the person died, it's got to be included in somebody else's return. And that's usually the person who got the money in the will or the person who paid the funeral expenses, that's the one who gets to include the $2,500.
Okay. Last question. I think I asked you this last year, but with respect to taking your pension, what's the sort of current school of thought on that? Wait as long as you can. Wait. I think you said, if you're able to collect a pension at 65, get it then and don't wait?
Actually, get it at 60. Again, if you wait, you will get more money. But then you're not. So if you wait to 65, let's say you qualify at 60. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get the pension 5 years earlier, and you're going to be penalized around 35%. So you're going to be getting 65% of your pension, but you're getting it 5 years earlier. So you're getting money over 5 years. Also, you're getting money when you can use it, because if you get it after 65, who knows what you're going to pay it to. Also, when it raises the income, you're going to be paying tax on that also. Also, if you collect a pension at age 60, it means that you can stop paying pension from your employer's paycheck. It used to be that if you kept working and were collecting a pension, you'd have to keep contributing to the Quebec pension plan, which was around $4,600 a year, and your employer pays the same thing. That's around over $9,000, and there's a second contribution as well. So you're pushing around $10,000. And for that, your pension goes up like $30 a month. So because people didn't want to go back to work because they were severely penalized, the government a couple of years ago said if you are collecting a pension at 60 and over, then you don't have to contribute anymore. If you're collecting at 65, you don't even have to apply, and it's automatic. And if you're over 70, well, it's a slam dunk. So again, you're getting it early, you get penalized, but again, you're paying less tax, and you're also getting a lot of money in your pocket, which you would not normally get.
What about the idea that someone brings up, wait as long as you possibly can? Does that make sense?
Well, no, there's basically a 16-year break even. So if you collect the money, if you wait, and you collect for 16 years, you will make up for the fact that you didn't collect early.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so, again, who's going to live to like 86, or who can guarantee that?
Got it.
So nobody knows, and therefore I always say take the money now because, again, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and you don't know what's going to happen, then your pension's gone. Unless, of course, you're married and your spouse gets a portion of that pension.
Excellent advice, as always. Harvey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Take good care.
Bye-bye.
There you go. That's what's happening as far as taxes are concerned. Some tips there. And as you said, what did you say, TurboTax, like $35, and it prompts you now? I guess that stuff is getting better and better, that software, right? Just something to consider.
The very latest news, reported and discussed. Welcome back to Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
So came across this headline the other day and gives you talk about a sign of the times, at least when it comes to cars, right? It is now officially impossible to find a new car on the market in this country for less than $20,000. Now, when I saw that figure, I thought, $20,000? Geez, when was the last time you could buy a car for anywhere near that? Well, the last car on the market for that price was actually the Mitsubishi Mirage, which was discontinued a few months ago. And as of right now, the number one small selling car, I guess, or lowest price car that you can buy is the Nissan Kicks, which now remains, or now has become, I guess, the most affordable car on the market. But they say supplies are running low. They're trying to get rid of those too. Greg Layson is a digital editor at Automotive News, and he's on the line. Greg, thanks for your time this afternoon. Look, when I saw that, as I said, that $20,000 figure, I thought, well, that's crazy. When was the last time you could buy a car for that kind of money? But my understanding is, do some research on this. You could have bought a car for $10,000, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, 10 years ago, you could have bought a minivan about that long ago for $20,000. If you remember, the Dodge Grand Caravan Canada Value Package was $19,999.
Wow.
That was seems like eons ago. You're lucky to find a vehicle under $30,000 these days. That's because the prices of everything have just gone up.
So, but here's my question. Yes, the price of everything has just gone up, but I mean, automakers obviously made a definite decision here to say, you know what, we're not interested in playing in the low-cost market anymore because we can sell more expensive cars and make more money. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, this is a bit of a chicken and egg situation. Did automakers stop making cars because no one wanted them, or did people stop buying cars because they wanted something bigger? And then did the automakers say, well, geez, I can make a whole lot more margin on a truck, an SUV, a crossover than I can with a car? The other thing at play is a K-shaped economy. If the top half is doing really well and can afford more expensive vehicles at higher margins for the automakers, that's what they sell. We saw that happen during about 2020 to 2022 when there was a shortage due to COVID and a shortage due to microchips.
Right.
Automakers simply sold more expensive vehicles and continued to sell them. Now we're 6 years removed from that, and that is the trend. That lower end, those entry-level vehicles, the profit margin on those is so small that automakers just sort of simply have tuned that out and moved on to bigger, better, more expensive vehicles that make them more money.
Yeah, it's funny. I hate to even think of it that way, but you're right. If you consider, COVID as sort of a turning point, people started spending more money to get cars. There were no cars available, and the automakers obviously sat back and went, wait a sec, this actually turns out to be great for them.
Yeah, it does. Look, there are still some vehicles out there that are, affordable, which is a relative term. It means something different to everyone. What's affordable to me is not affordable to maybe my neighbor. But GM, for example, makes the Chevy Trax. A few years ago, they came out and said it. We have figured out a way to make money on an entry-level vehicle. Now, it's not a car. It's a crossover. But the margin on that is anywhere from 3 to 5% for General Motors, which then says, geez, that's enough to keep making these. And it has become a very successful entry-level vehicle for General Motors. They can make money on it. It's quality. It does a lot of things. It replaces that entry-level car. And that's what, we're sort of used to. I always use Chrysler, FCA, Stellantis, whatever you want to call it, as sort of the old guard. They made the K car, saved the company. Then there was the Dodge Shadow and the Neon and the Spirit and all of these things, the Chrysler 200. They were entry-level vehicles. Chrysler and Stellantis, as a whole, they don't make an entry-level vehicle anymore. The Jeep Compass is going to return, and that's as low a price as you're going to get.
So I want to point out a couple of other things, and this surprised me as well. If you think a used car is going to save you money, the prices of those have gone crazy as well.
Yeah, because what's happened is there weren't a lot of entry-level vehicles bought and sold during COVID and the global microchip shortage, which would then be coming back on the market now as a used vehicle 6 years after. So there's not a lot of stock to replenish the used market. And then on top of that, because so many are priced out of the new market, they've turned to the used market. So what happens? Supply and demand.
Right.
There's not as much supply. There's more demand because a new car is so expensive. We are in a real tight crunch now if you are looking for a new or new-to-you vehicle. They are expensive on both sides of the ledger, new or used.
And by the way, this is not just Canada. I read in the U.S. the same thing has been happening there as well, so it's not unique to this country.
No, it's not. I mean, this was the market at work since about 2020, right? Both sides of the border were doing the same thing. There wasn't a lot to choose from, so there weren't a lot of entry-level vehicles being bought. There aren't a lot being put back into the used side of things. Both of us, felt the effects of COVID, those factory shutdowns, then the global microchip shortage, then automakers seeing profitability in larger SUVs and trucks. So together, Canada and the United States and the North American market have sort of been following the same track.
So can I ask you, for people listening to this and realizing that the prices have gotten so expensive, and I understand as well, even just, the payouts now, a lot of people are looking at cars $800, $900, $1,000 a month. That's not even unusual anymore. It's like financing a mortgage in some sense.
Yes.
Where's the best deal to be found these days, in your opinion, on a car?
Beginning of the month, when all the new deals come out, the dealer or the automakers always have their newest deals early in the month. And I'm going to be honest, we cannot believe how discounted used electric vehicles are on the sort of private sale marketplace. So Facebook Marketplace, for example, or Kijiji. Used electric vehicles can be had for about 60% of their original cost in some cases. And I'm talking Mach-E's and Ford F-150 Lightnings, even Audis, e-trons. They are heavily discounted in the used market right now. So you could start there. Then I would say wait until April or May or June. That's the biggest buying season of the year. You will see your biggest cash discounts and incentives, 0% financing, for example, from the automakers. That's where I'd start. And then I would say this. Ask yourself, what do I really need my vehicle to do? We have seen a lot of consumers go down segments. So instead of a full-size SUV, they're getting mid-size. Instead of a mid-size, they're getting compact or subcompact. Ask yourself if you need that big engine. I, for example, drive a V6 pickup. I'm not towing anything, but I still needed the sort of usefulness of a pickup, but I don't need the V8 engine. So really make a list of what it is you need. Really, truly need out of your vehicle. Room, fuel economy, space, towing, all of it. And if you don't need it, check it off.
All right. Before we get out of here, 2 questions based on what you just said. With respect to used electric cars, why are they so cheap? Is the concern there that battery's not going to last forever? What would be the rationale?
No, I think people just know there isn't a huge market for it right now. There's not a big demand in the used electric vehicle segment right now. And so the only way to move them is to discount them. I don't think there's anything wrong with the batteries. They're always under warranty for as long as any new car. Of course, you're going to read stories about batteries being needed to be replaced after 7-8 years, but these things are few and far between. I think this is just a situation where people don't think they can sell them at a higher price. There isn't a lot of interest. Nobody's thinking about buying used EVs yet because it's still new in all of our sort of psyche.
And is it still prohibitive to buy a new EV? Because I heard the other day we're making so few of these in Canada to begin with.
I don't know if it's prohibitive. I would say if you're going to if you're buying a vehicle, you are typically getting into that vehicle for anywhere from 3 to 8 years. So if that is your choice, and EV owners tend to use them and own them a little bit longer for the most part, because they're invested in that technology. They want it for other reasons than just commuting around. I don't think it's prohibitive to buy an EV. There is enough charging. And look, here's the other thing. We don't drive as far as we all think we do. The average commute in Canada is somewhere between 50 and 80 kilometers a day. And there are plenty of EVs that have more than 200, 300, 400 kilometers of range on a good day. And even when it's cold, it's going to get you far enough.
So you figure that's still a good bet then? You would buy an EV if you could?
I've considered them, absolutely, but I'll tell you what the answer is. The answer is hybrid because, as I've always said, it is Linus's security blanket from Peanuts. You can go anywhere in a hybrid knowing that you can fill up your tank of gas and knowing that you're saving money on the charge. That would be the sort of sweet spot selection if I was buying a new vehicle today. It would be in that hybrid market, and the automakers know it. Toyota, for example, is essentially turning all of their powertrains into hybrids for that reason. Now, they do cost about $2,500 more up front, but you're going to get that savings if you're just commuting around town.
Last question, really quick, not a really question, more of a comment. The way you describe it now, you said look for bargains beginning of the month. So we're looking at buying cars the way we buy groceries now, right? You get a flyer every week looking for the lowest price.
Yeah, the automakers, they reveal their deals once a month at the beginning of the month. Now, you see the prices at the beginning of the month, and then when you go in at the end of the month, if they haven't had a good month of sales, maybe you can get in a few freebies like oil changes and tire rotations and things like that at the end of the month if they're looking to up their sales.
Hey, Greg, it's always a pleasure. Really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Seasoned gamer or just video game curious? This Week in Gaming is the podcast for you. We break down the latest in the world of video games, from basics to beyond. The hottest gaming news, insight, and industry leaders and more, weekly. Join me, Naomi Kyle, and stay ahead of the game with all the latest updates, even if you're a total newbie. Stream This Week in Gaming on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Quest complete. Because you don't want to miss a thing. Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
Sovereignty is a political project. It's not, it's a legitimate political project, but it's not a good economic project. It's not a good project in terms of fiscal consequences because the federal government spends $20 billion more per year than it collects in Quebec. 12 to 13 are related to equalization payment. So while it's a legitimate project, it's not a good economic project, not good fiscally point of view, and I think Quebecers understand that. Is adding uncertainty to an environment that is already uncertain.
Pretty clear description, I think, from our finance minister, Eric Girard, on what exactly the threat of a referendum means. And by the way, there are numbers attached to this, and I'll get into that in a second. But Eric Girard, Minister of Finance, is on the line. Minister, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, this whole idea, which all of a sudden, based on what happened in Chicoutimi in this by-election, suddenly we're all talking about a referendum. Paul St. Pierre Plamondon backing down a little bit, now suggesting it won't happen on day one or week one or maybe not even the first 2 or 3 years, based on what's happening in the U.S. Your suggestion is and by the way, your assessment there, as I said, I think is bang on. You're been responsible for the fiscal health of this province. What is this costing us? And I know you mentioned this yesterday with respect to just the threat of a referendum. Are there dollars attached to this? What does it mean?
Well, what I said basically is that the fact that they're leading in the polls and that their political project has some implication for the presence of Quebec within Canada or within the economic union is adding economic uncertainty, and it also has impact in financial markets. And with respect to financial markets, because billions are traded every day, it's easy to measure the impact. So what I said is that we observe an impact of 5 basis points. Basis points are 100 of 1%, so the difference between, for example, 4% and 4.05%. So in the 10-year sector, we're borrowing at 5 basis points higher because the market is putting a non-zero probability that there will be a referendum that could be won. And so this is measurable, and the impact is because we're financing $30 billion a year and Hydro $10 billion a year. I made some easy calculation that anybody in the financial market could do. 40 billion times 5 basis point is 20 million a year, and next year we're also refinancing, so it's all adding up to 100 million per year after 5 years, and after 10 years, because the weighted average maturity of our debt is 10 years, then it would be 200 million.
And you're saying this is reflected, basically this increase in what we're paying, by virtue of the fact that there's the threat of a referendum, because the party now that's leading would hold a referendum. So it will not come as a surprise to you, Minister, that Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, upon hearing that, said this instead.
It's a historic deficit, and it did trigger, in the same period, a switch in the borrowing cost, and it's written down by Standard Poor's. They believe, and rightly so, that the way of governing of the CAQ leads to a structural deficit that hinders the financial situation of Quebec.
So he's contending it's poor fiscal management. Does he have a point?
No. We were downgraded by S&P, and we were stable or maintained by 3 other rating agencies, and the downgraded had zero impact on our spread. Zero. The situation is that since the fall, the markets are efficient. They've integrated the probability of a victory by the PQ and a referendum, and they've put a risk premium. This is what financial markets are doing. But all this is there's a lot of discussion around this. My point was, I was asked yesterday in the National Assembly, and I'm doing public service, and reporters are asking me questions, and I'm just answering. That's my job. Their job is to ask questions, and I'm answering it. The question was, would I be in the no camp if there was a referendum? And my answer was that the no camp is comprised of a majority of Quebecers who first do not want a referendum, and second would vote no if there was one.
Okay, so you put yourself in that same camp. If there was one, you would vote no.
Correct.
Okay.
But that's not...
No, I know that's not the central question. Right, okay.
But that's not news to anybody.
Well, I mean, I bring it up. It's funny because the other day, Eric Duhem, the Conservatives, did very well in the riding in Chicoutimi, right, in that by-election, and he was asked a question. He said he doesn't want a referendum either, but when the question was asked of him, would you vote no in a referendum, he wouldn't answer.
Well, I can't comment for Eric Duhem, but I know where I would stand for sure.
Okay. Look, I want to get back to this idea of how much money this is costing Quebec, right? And the contention from, the PQ that this is not all about the threat of a party winning and then having a referendum, although we've been through this before, and I'm sure the same thing happened the last time as well, when it became even, more apparent that this might happen. We all started paying more money because people were concerned about the future of Quebec. But, the contention is, wait a sec, look, we're running a $12 or $13 billion deficit. This is historic in Quebec, and that has something to do with the fact that people like Standard & Poor's, rating agencies, look at it and go, wait a sec, that's an awful lot of money. It's a historic high, and therefore there's a risk premium involved in there as well.
Okay. First of all, just I don't want to correct you.
I want you to, please.
Just to be clear, there's no historic deficit in Quebec. The deficit is 1.5% of GDP. I think in the history of Quebec, there was about 20 deficits that were larger than this. I ran a larger deficit than this during the pandemic in 2021. So I don't know where this idea of a historic deficit comes from. The deficit is $12.6 billion, of which $2.5 billion goes to the Generation Fund. So $10 billion deficit in a $650 billion economy is 1.5%. The federal government is at 2.7%. BC is at 3%. PEI is at 3%. Nova Scotia, I think, is at 2.5%. We will be the province with the second or third smallest deficit in Canada this year. So we're managing public finance properly in a very difficult environment. With respect to the spread, we are borrowing at 7 basis points. Again, a basis point is 100 of 1%. 7 basis points wider to Ontario. So if Ontario is at 4%, we're at 4.07. 2 of those are related to public finance, and that basically the market assessed that Ontario is doing slightly better than Quebec, and this is true because they're not spending. So 2 basis points of the 7 basis point is associated to public finance, and 5 of the 7 basis point in the 10-year sector is associated to the threat of sovereignty.
Okay. I would, to your point, by the way, and I'm glad you brought it up about historic, I use that word. The budget proposed, the deficit, the project, right? Deficit $13.6 billion, 2025-26, which will be the largest in absolute dollar terms?
It was revised lower to 12.6 in the fall economic update, and it will be revised lower again when I table next budget.
Now, some people are wondering, by the way, with respect to the next budget, these things are usually announced at the beginning of March. You've already announced there will be a delay. Why is that?
So we're in a different situation where we not only are working with the current premier, who I've been working with for the last 8 years and who has done an excellent job, Premier Legault, but I also need to consult the 2 candidates to succeed him. And therefore, it's a little more complicated process, but we're hopeful that we will be in a position to announce the date of the budget next week. But unfortunately for today, I cannot confirm the date.
Okay. Can I ask you as well, with respect to the future, you're right, there will be a new leader and a new premier in this party. It's only a matter of about a month or so. There are a lot of people, of course, who look at what the CAQ has done in terms of some financial missteps, if you will, like Northvolt, like Lion Electric. There are a few of them. Will you stay on and run in the next election for the CAQ?
Yes, and we will be competitive. We will have a new leader. I intend to continue doing my job as a finance minister. We will have an excellent team that will be competitive, and it will be up to the Quebecers to decide who has the privilege to govern.
But you're not going anywhere. You're staying.
As long as I'm elected by the people of Grou in Rosemère, Boisbriand, and Sainte-Thérèse, I'll be there, and I think we will be competitive.
All right. We will leave it at that. Minister, I always appreciate your time. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Eric Girard, Minister of Finance. There you go, explaining the situation we're in. Be curious to get the Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon's reaction to his reaction. We'll get a chance to do that. We will.
This has been the Montreal Now Podcast.
Listen live on your radio weekday afternoons from 2 to 6
on CJAD 800
or through the iHeartRadio app.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.